Yo, what's happening, people? It's your boy Michael, and welcome back to Greg's Talks, where we talk all things sports. And today, with the Premier League season starting in 2 days with Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. I thought I would make a video on one player to look out for at each Premier League club. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. And to start off, I think I'm gonna go by top to bottom, probably alphabetical order. So the first club is Arsenal. So the player I chose for Arsenal is William Saliba, who is kind of like a new signing to them, even though he's been at the club for almost 3 years now, but he's been on loan to different clubs in that time span. I think he went to Nice and Marseille last year, where he was arguably one of the best center backs in the league on. And he's come back to Arsenal. He will save the season, despite the numerous attempts from Marseille to sign him. So yeah, he's there. And while he originally may not be a starter to begin with, depending on, I think Arteta might go with the defense that he had last year. I do think he breaks through eventually, and I do think he will solidify that spot. And by the end of the year, he will he will be regarded as a top five center back in the Premier League. I think he's that quality. He held his own against Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi last year at Ligue 1, and Mbappe is arguably the best player in the world, and Lionel Messi is still Lionel Messi, no matter what his stats were last year. And I think Saliba has it all for a center back. I feel like he's young, but he kind of has like that aura. Like he's tall, he's quick, he's athletic. His ball playing ability is amazing. He's got a long pass, short pass, all that. I think his only weakness, which is due to age, is maybe his reading of the game in terms of like runners in behind. So he might have that to deal with in the Premier League with like a Jamie Vardy or a Raheem Sterling when they play against Chelsea, that kind of stuff. But I do think that's something that he can improve with age and will probably improve this season with Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, and I think he is the player to look out for that club. There are a couple other players like Fabio Vera who they signed this summer, except for an Odegaard to have a bounce back season, Eddie Nketiah, but I think Saliba's that one player to look out for, and he's kind of gonna cement himself as like one of the linchpins, like one of like the top players at Arsenal for the future in terms of their project with Arteta. The next club I will go with, I think I'm gonna go with Aston Villa. I should probably pull up the order for clubs in the Premier League. Excuse me one second. Bournemouth. That's the next club actually. Never mind. Bournemouth. Honestly, that club. I think I'm just gonna go with Dominic Solanke, who's a striker. He was a beast in the academy at Liverpool and Chelsea. I think he played in both their academies, and he ended up getting bought by Bournemouth 20 mil, like 3 years ago when they were last in the Premier League. Didn't work out for him in there at that season under Eddie Howe, but he did smash it for them in the championship. Now they're back up. Maybe that couple of years in the championship might have helped them develop potentially. And if Bournemouth have any chance, even though I think they have zero chance of surviving, it will be down to Solanke scoring clutch goals, kind of similar how the Callum Wilson and Josh King did for them all those years ago. So yeah, it's very quick. I don't have that much to say about Bournemouth. Next up is Aston Villa, and the player I'm gonna go with is their new signing, Boubacar Kamara, who they signed on a free transfer from Marseille in that DM slot. I think he will be a starter. I think one of Douglas Luiz. I think Douglas Luiz will sit on the bench. Potentially John McGinn will not because he's a new captain. I think Jacob Ramsey might be out there midfielder, who's another good player. But Boubacar Kamara, he will play. He signed for almost 250K a week, which is big money at a mid-table club. And I think he's also a French international. I think he might be kind of like that protector to help Villa be a little more solidified in defense because they did concede a lot of stupid goals. Tyler Mings, I think, also got his captaincy removed, so he might be sitting on the bench with Diego Carlos and a concept being the new center back partnership potentially. So yeah, but I do think that will be the player to look out for at Aston Villa because he's a very good player. I did want him originally in Man United. I wrote an article about him and how United should sign him, but despite him being on a free, I think the only other club than Villa that was really interested in him was Atletico Madrid, and Atletico Madrid is not a bad club to be wanted by. So that was a good coup from Aston Villa. I'm sure the money played a factor into it, but yeah, that would be a player to look out for. At Brentford, I think I'm just gonna go with the. Let me think. They just signed a couple players. Yeah, Aaron Hickey, the guy that's attacked from Bologna in Serie A. I think he was really linked with Arsenal, like as a backup left back for Tini, but Arsenal, I think Brentford beat them to it. I was gonna say Damsgaard, but I don't know if that transfer is official yet. So yeah, but Aaron Hickey, that's a good player. 2-footed, so he can play both left back and left wing back, right wing back. So that would be interesting to see where Thomas Frank plays him. But I think that's a great signing. Um, Brentford really utilized their wing backs to create from running up and down the flanks. So it'll be interesting. I also want to see how he adjusts to the Premier League because if he performs very well at Brentford, he could play himself into potentially a bigger move, maybe even Arsenal second time around. Make them regret not signing him now and pay more of a fee. But yeah, I do like what Brentford has done this summer. That was a good signing. I think also Thomas Frank's football is exceptional, and they did lose Ericsson, but it will be interesting what they do. And I think Aaron Hickey will play a big part of that. Maybe he could help create more chances for Ivan Toney to finish, as he had a really good second half of the season last year, partly due to Ericsson coming. So they need more chance creation. So I think Aaron Hickey is a good opportunity for that. Next up, Brighton, everyone's favorite hipster club in the Premier League. They as of right now they have officially have not signed Levi Kolo, so I will not say that name. I will go with Moises Caicedo, who I think will be the Bissouma replacement. Obviously, yes, Bissouma went to Spurs this summer, so Brighton did not sign a direct replacement during the summer, but that is because they did sign Moises Caicedo for 5 million. I think the winter of 2021. United were linked with him as well. There was a whole saga about the MTB hype and all that, but I think he's a player that kind of started coming into his like Brian's starting 11 towards the end of the season, kind of maybe hinting that he is like the Bissouma replacement. He scored a goal against Man United at 4-0. Great box to box. He was called a hybrid of Pogba and Conte. He's kind of like a Bissouma that could probably play a DM and play as a box to box. Potter is very flexible with his tactics, so it'll be interesting to see what he does with Caicedo. But I think that will be a player to look out for, and I'm really interested to see what Brighton do. Honorable mention for this was Unda, the English striker that came back from loan. He was at loan in the Belgian league, and he scored a lot of goals. I'm not gonna lie, I really heard from him just from FIFA, but yeah, that's a little off. But yeah, that's pretty much from Unda. I have heard good things about him from some of my friends on Twitter, and he does seem to be a bagsman based on some of the comps I watched on him. And yeah, he will probably be the key to how Brighton perform this season. Maybe make a Europa Conference League push and all that. But yeah, I think Moises Caicedo is a player to look out for this season for Brighton. Next up, we have Chelsea. Honestly, with that club, I think just a player to look out for is one. I was gonna say one of the youth, but Colo's leaving. Gilmore's not really. I think Raheem Sterling will be. I don't know if it's a little bait answer, but I think Raheem Sterling is one of those. I think the players to look out for in terms of how will he adjust to not being in a Pep system. I know we saw him arguably play the tournament in the Euro in the Southgate, but that was an international tournament. It is a lot different in the league and UCL and all that kind of stuff. I want to see how he adjusts to Thomas Tuchel system. It is a very different system compared to Pep. So I think there will be more of a burden on Raheem Sterling, and I want to see if he handles that burden at Chelsea because he will be arguably tasked with being the chief creator and then the chief goal scorer unless he signs a striker. Obviously, the window is yet to be done, so they might sign a goal scorer to kind of ease the burden on Raheem Sterling. But he was a superstar signing of the summer. Even though he's not the cheapest deal, but he is a superstar signing of the summer. So I think Raheem Sterling is a player to look out for, and I think he'll prove a lot of people wrong that call him like a Pep system player and all that kind of stuff, even though he proved otherwise in the Euros. So I think if he could thrive under a Southgate system offensively, I think you have it. You could thrive in any system in the world, arguably. So I think Raheem Sterling will back for Chelsea easily. Crystal Palace, this is easy for me. Sheikh Doucouré that they signed from RC Lens. My favorite player to sign in Football Manager. I sign him every new save I do. I sign him. He's one of my first midfielders that I sign. A great player to have. He can be a Conor Gallagher replacement, or if Vieira could play him as the deepest midfielder, I don't know what Patrick Vieira would theoretically do with him. I haven't in the preseason game that they played against us. I didn't really see anything to hint what he will do. So we'll see on Friday when they play against Arsenal. But I think Sheikh Doucouré is a great signing. Ligue 1 is a midfield gold mine that you can sign so many midfielders, and Patrick Vieira has fit into that well of other Ligue 1 midfield talent, and I think Sheikh Doucouré is an excellent signing. He could do it all, press, create, not to a high extent, but he could create somewhat. He's a great ball winning midfielder, and honestly, all he has to do is win the ball back and progress a little bit to your Elises, your Zahas, your Eze, and the rest. Palace are great teams, are arguably the biggest vibe team to watch, and a lot of people have high expectations for them this season, off coming off a successful year last year, and they seem to just gotten better as well. So yeah, I think Sheikh Decor is a great player and a player to look out for at Crystal Palace. Next up, Everton. Dwight McNeil is shop. I think I'm just gonna go with Anthony Gordon, who really impressed me last year, but despite Everton's shocking form, especially as Lampard came in. But I think Anthony Gordon is a great player, great winger. I think he's their best player, honestly, franchise player, and all that kind of stuff. I always like to say. I think he can do it on both wings. I think primarily he's a left winger though, cut in all that, great dribbler, could pick out a pass, get off the ball. And they do lose Richarlison, so I think Anthony Gordon will have to step up and take that responsibility alongside his DLC. And Doug McNeil, who they signed, who's also a great player in his own right. But yeah, Anthony Gordon is definitely the player to look out for. And I do think that this will be the year where he places himself into a move to potentially, I think, Newcastle. I think Newcastle are a club that will sign him next summer. They were linked this summer, but Everton's price was a little higher. But Everton might get relegated this year, potentially, unless they make a couple other summer signings. So if they do get relegated, that price would drop significantly, and I think someone like a Newcastle will swoop in for him, or potentially even a higher club than Newcastle. But I think Newcastle will be a great slot for him, and that left wing spot. Next, after that, we have Fulham. Honestly, that club. I'm gonna go with Harry Wilson, who was one of their best players last year in the championship. A very good player. Liverpool, he came through Liverpool's academy, so I think that will be a good player. I think honestly with Fulham, we've seen them come up twice. We've seen them get relegated. The first time was atrocious because they spent a lot of money. The second time, they really didn't spend that much and ended up getting relegated anyway. We'll see third time's a charm. We'll see Mitrovic can step up and stuff can step up and finally score goals, or at least replicate 50% of what he does in the championship. But I think if Harry Wilson could have a really good creative season, they could do something. But obviously losing Fabio Carvalho is huge, which I will talk about when I do the standings prediction and all that kind of stuff, kind of go into more detail about more than just one player from each club. But yeah, for Fulham, I think Harry Wilson is a player to look out for. Leeds is easy for me. There was a couple. Actually, Leeds not easy because they made a lot of signings, a lot of young signings. Mark Roca, Tyler Adams, Brandon Aronson, the two Americans, obviously being from New York. I'm really in tune with all these American prospects, but I think the player I'm going to choose is Luis Sinisterra, who is the Rafinha replacement. And I think he's a great signing. I watched him in the Conference League last year with Feyenoord. He was incredible to watch. I think they went all the way to the final. So he was a great player to watch. He's very electric. I think he could play on both wings, and if he can, it's going to be hard to replace Rafinha because Rafinha is such a great quality, a great talent. As we see, he will end up going to Barcelona. He's instant impact over there in preseason. So I think Sinisterra has a big shoes to fill, but I do think he has a quality, and he's a really big goal threat. There were games where he scored 4 goals in the game, hat tricks, braces, all that kind of stuff. And I think he kind of fits the Premier League mold of a winger, quick, electric, great dribbler, intense. That's what we want in a winger. We saw Luis Diaz kind of make some sort of impact like that for Liverpool, and he gave him energy, and this will give Leeds energy. But Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams are good shots, but I think Luis Sinisterra is definitely the player to watch out for Leeds, and I think Leeds will make not noise, like not top 10 or something like that, but I think they will comfortably finish like in mid-table, and that relegation worry that they had last year will not happen this year, in my opinion. I think they've improved. I think the players that they signed are really quality. I think Jesse Marshall proved a lot of people wrong. Leicester, that club has signed absolutely no one. So the player I'm going to go with, because of that, is Dewsbury Hall, who I think really came into his own last season, because in the midst they had a lot of injuries and he stepped up. I think Madison will leave eventually. I think he'll leave in the winter to Spurs. That's my bold take as of right now, because I think Leicester will crumble this year. West for finals in please. They just lost Casper Schmeichel to Nice for like £1 million, something like that. So I think Dewsbury Hall will kind of you'll see him step up and kind of become the new Madison for them. He's very press resistant, very good midfielder, tight in the ball. I don't know what's creative, but just he's a proper number 8. Work off the ball, press resistant, good dribbler. Will get out of tight spaces and move the needle up. Harvey Barnes, like tall Harvey Barnes potentially. Patson Daka, who I also expect to break out year. He's probably the honorable mention, my second choice for this topic. So yeah, Dewsbury Hall is definitely the player to watch out for. Then we have Liverpool, and obviously the bait answer is like Darwin Nunez, but the player to look out for Liverpool is Fabio Carvalho, and I think that was their best signing this summer because they signed him for I believe £5 million, which is an absolute bargain. I know his contract was coming to an end, but he is a baller, absolute baller, and I think he will fit into Klopp's system perfectly because he will allow potentially Klopp to play a 4-2-3-1 with Carvalho flagging the 10, or he could play that right center mid spot, or he could play on the wings. The kid is uber talented. He declared for Portugal, I believe. He's in the under 21 because he has ambitions to play for the World Cup for Portugal. I think he honestly could make that team, but he's a supremely talented kid. Probably one of the biggest reasons, other than Mitrovic scoring like 40 plus goals, for the reason Fulham won the championship last year. And the kid's a supreme talent. And I think giving him to someone like Klopp, who is known to develop talent, was possibly the best move for him. And they really got a future superstar there. I think he just has that superstar quality and that feeling about him. And I think Fabio Cabral is definitely a player to look out for at Liverpool. And I think he will send out a starting spot by the end of the year for Liverpool. Honorable mention for this was Harvey Elliott, who had his first full season. Obviously, had that horrific ankle injury last year, so Harvey Elliott is definitely another player to look out for. Manchester City, another cheap signing, the signing that no one talks about because they signed a bigger player in a similar position, which was Erling Haaland. I think the player to look out for is Julian Alvarez. I think the kid is another supreme talent. It pains me every day that my club did not sign him in January when we were linked with him. Literally every day, that will always be thinking about that. I definitely thought about that on Saturday when he scored in that Community Shield. He is a great talent. The kid got called the Carlos Tevez Sergio Aguero hybrid, and that's arguably the perfect forward when you have those kind of abilities. And I think he's a great player. He has intensity, great on the ball, great shot power, can dribble. Like, he just has everything forward, and he's tactically flexible. He does not have to play the 9 to have impact. As you saw in the game against Liverpool in the Community Shield, he came off the right and he had the impact. He will link up with Haaland very well because his link up play is exceptional. That's arguably his best trait. And Pep's system is all about linking up and forming relationships on the pitch and being in tandem with each other. And Pep tells you what positions, and I think he's the definition of a Pep player. He's more of a Pep player than Haaland, and that's why I think he will have maybe a bigger impact. Haaland will obviously score a lot of goals because he's Erling Haaland, but Julian Alvarez, he is the player to look out for Man City, and I think he will be in the first team, like starting 11 by I say a little after the World Cup, because I think he'll also have a good World Cup. I think Argentina will use him because he's involved in that setup as well, and I think City's ideal front three for me, if they want to succeed and win the Premier League again, is Foden on the left, Haaland up the middle, and Julian Albert on the right. That is goals right there. So yeah, that's my player for Man City. Next up, we have Man United. Honestly, with this club, what do I even pick? I don't think any of the youth are going to have enough of an impact. I could go with Garnacho. I think the player to look out for is probably my favorite transfer that we made. We only made like 3, but it is Lisandro Martinez. I think a lot of people are doubting him already, so that's why I don't think this should be a pick because of his height and everything. But I think he will be one of the best center backs in the league. He will bring a sense of calmness to United, which I haven't had the word calm associated with this club in such a long time. He's pressure resistant, the wonder of a left foot. He could ping any pass he wants to. He might even play midfield because we have no midfielder right now. So I think he's a player that will fit into the system. Obviously, it is his former coach, Ajax and Erik ten Hag. I think Lisandro Martinez will be a player to look out for Man United, and he will cement himself in the upper echelon of Premier League center backs. Not top 5, like I said, with Saliba, but I think top 10 easily. And the price tag we did pay 50 plus mil for him, so he should be able to make that jump into the Premier League. And I hope he does, and I do think he will because he's a great talent. And I think the fact that he's coming, Ten Hag is also here, I think that relationship that they already have will work perfectly fine. And I think he will form a good relationship with his center back partner, whether I don't know who that would be yet, but I do think eventually the player that Ten Hag can be with him will be fine. And I think the relationship that he will have with Tyrell Malacia, who's another one of our signings, will also be great. And I think Martinez will make a good move, will make a good adjustment to the Premier League from the Eredivisie, and I think he will be a great player because he has that dog in him. and that adds like 3 inches for me to your height. And I love Argentinian defenders because they will fight for everything, and that's what United need. They need fighters as well as on the ball quality. We need fighters in our teams that fight for the badge, and that's what Lisandro Martinez will bring to us. After this, we have Newcastle. Obviously, I expect the Newcastle to have a better summer than they did, but the player I'm going to look out for. It's really a player that we all already know, but this will be his first full season in the Premier League. He hasn't made that full adjustment, that full season yet, so we'll see if that was just like a purple patch, but I do not believe it will be. That is Bruno Guimaraes, the Brazilian midfielder, and that is a player that I wanted on my club again. And you see, there's a common theme here. There's a lot of players I want on my club, and that's why I'm picking because I rate them very highly because I watch them on other teams. And Bruno G is an exceptional midfielder. He has every single quality he can play the 8 and the 6 comfortably. He's just a perfect midfielder, and that is the fact that Newcastle only got him for 40 mil was arguably the best start that they could have had to their new project under the new owners. That is already one of the best rate signings, other than maybe signing a top-notch forward because forwards will always the X factor. Signing that good of a midfielder and keep it and making him the face of your project while you work on other aspects of it is a great signing, and I think Bruno G will make himself a top 5 midfielder in the Premier League by the end of the year. I think he's that good. And him, Joelinton, and Newcastle, if they do get Maddison, that is a great midfield. I think Eddie Howe first season, they finished like ninth, and they were bottom of the league in like December. That's how many points they racked up. And I do think that they will finish around that area again. I think Eddie Howe and Bruno G. I think Bruno G will be a big reason for that. I think a full season of him, and he's great as well. So they do need creators and like goal scorers, but he will create an ample amount of opportunities himself. I think it will be fine. But they do need that one extra midfielder. That would be nice and a forward. But Bruno G is a great player. Then we have Nottingham Forest. I'm gonna go with the striker Taiwo Awoniyi. I'm probably butchered that. My apologies, but the striker from Union Berlin, great signing. I think that was their first or second signing. They have made a lot of signings because they had a lot of players on loan that left to their parent clubs or left as a free agent. So I think that was a great signing for them. Very cheap as well. Obviously Bundesliga tax and all that, but he was a really good striker for Union Berlin last year. Really impressed. Got himself in a spot for Nigeria and AFCON. I think he's a good striker, and I think if you want to stay up, you need to have a solid defense, which they kind of do because they play the 5-back. And you also need to make sure that you score enough goals to get points and to get results. And signing a goal scorer like Taiwo is a good signing. They have surrounded him with good players as well, like Nico Williams at right wing back, Jesse Lingard in behind. That's a good link up. So I think Taiwo Awoniyi is a player to look out for, and I think Forest have made enough moves to survive, make sure that they survive. And I think Taiwo could bag like 10 to 12 goals in the league, which is good enough, which is really good for a newly promoted club to have a goal scorer like that, double-digit goals. It's not the easy thing to get in the Premier League, so I think that's the player to look out for Nottingham Forest. Next up after that, we have Southampton with their 155 million youth signings that they made that are like youth players from Man City. The player I'm gonna go with Romeo Lavia. I'm gonna go with the DM. I think he has played for Belgium as well. He's highly touted. I think a lot of people thought that maybe he would be like a replacement for Fernandinho, but see, obviously signed Calvin Phillips, and I think he's a good player. I think signing him will, as like a DM, will kind of maybe allow Ward-Prowse to push up a little bit more and get used in the final third. And he's also just a good player, a good youth player. I think he's signed like 15 mil, which is a lot for someone that's barely played any minutes professionally, like in the senior level. So he must have some kind of qualities about him. I don't know that much about him, but I do think he's a player to look out for because if he can live up to the potential or like the hype that Southampton believe him to be, then they will do fine because there's a lot of people that are doubting Southampton because they did sign a lot of young players. And yeah, those kids can have potential, but will that potential all happen in one season or can it happen 2-3 years down the line? They reach that potential, but you have the championship by then. So it is a conundrum that they face right now. So that would be interesting to see. Spurs. The obvious answer is Julius Bissouma, which I think I'm trying to go with. Actually, no, I'm not gonna go with Bissouma. they didn't really sign anyone like younger, like that. Anyone that's on own. That's the thing with Spurs. Obviously, having Conte will do kind of sign proven players. So I think for that, I think I'm gonna go with Langley. I don't like Langley at all, but Conte has proven to get the best out of a player. That is why Conte is one of the best managers. He will play him in a back three. As much as I don't rate Langley defensively, on the ball he is quality. There's a reason why he plays for Barcelona because you need to be good on the ball to play for Barcelona. That's all. That's like the first requirement. Like, and before you even take a medical, it's probably are you good on the ball? That's what you need to do to play Barcelona. So he does have that quality. He was really good at Sevilla before the move to Barca. I think Barca had just been like a roller coaster crash the last couple of years in terms of like all the drama surrounding them. So that probably had an impact. So I think going with Conte might not play every game, but he will play a lot of games. I think that's a good move for him. And I'm interested to see obviously the loan as well. Probably Langley probably has a point to prove, and I think that's why he's a player to look out for. And I think Conte, like I said, Conte gets the best out of a player, and I think he get the best out of Langley and use him in that left center back spot, and probably limit Langley's like defensive responsibilities, and leave like with Romero sweeping behind him. Romero's a class sweeper that will allow Langley to kind of thrive in a better role. So I think Langley's a player to look out for at Spurs. Then we have West Ham, and this is easy for me. The striker, Gianluca Scamacca, another player on that Man United football Twitter's favorite striker at the moment because he is, in terms of profile, the striker that you want because he has been likened to be like an Ibra region, and Ibra's an ideal profile for a striker. So Scamacca is tall, um, great on the ball for his height, good shooting power, good shooting powers. Like he strikes the ball very well. Ball striking ability is very important for a striker. Awareness, movement, all that kind of stuff. He fits the bill. He was 45 mil, I think. It's a good signing for West Ham. I'm really shocked that they got that deal because he's been linked with the likes of Paris Saint Germain, Inter Milan. Premier League clubs were allegedly involved, according to some Sassuolo president. So it was a good coup for West Ham, and I do think that he will thrive. So that's why I think he's a player to look out for. And I think he's the kind of player that I'll talk about this more when I do a prediction that could lift West Ham like back into like a top six spot, which they obviously finished seventh last year. And I think Antonio started the season so good last year, but he dwindled down due to injury, fatigue, and all that kind of stuff. Scamacca is a better striker. As good as Michail Antonio's profile is, like back to goal and everything, Scamacca is a better version of that in my opinion because he will provide more goals for you. He's a better finisher. So I think he's a great signing. And if they can sign someone like Felipe like Kostic next to him, that's a great signing. They also just signed someone from Lille today, Amadou Onana, I think, which is another good midfielder. So yeah, I think Scamacca is a player to look out for West Ham. Obviously, that's an easy answer, but everyone's excited to see what he can provide to them. And last but not least, Wolves. And I do think I know the player I'm going to go with. Max Kilman is an honorable mention, but the player I'm going to go with is Nathan Collins that signed from Burnley. He is a great center back. I think he's left-footed. Is he left-footed? Well, football will tell me that. But anyway, great center back. If people saw, scored a wonder goal in preseason when he just ran up the length of the pitch. Signed for I think 20 mil from Burnley. I think Burnley really wanted to keep him, but I think he's a great center back. I think Bruno Lage getting his hands on him is amazing because he is really good. He's really known for working with center backs. Max Kilman and him will form a good center back partnership of the three, with Captain Connor Cody included in that three. So I'll be interested to see what he does. But I think he's definitely a player to look out for. And I think Wolves are in for a good season if they could adjust that striker spot. As much as Raul Jimenez was a bad boy 2-3 years ago, that CTE injury kind of hurt him a little bit. And I do think they need another forward. Pedro Neto, of course, will be back after missing half the season last year because of the ACL from the year prior. I think he will be another player to look out for. But I think not Nathan Collins. That's another center back. Oh, it is Nathan Collins. Yeah, I was right. Jamie Collins is another center back I'm thinking of. Nathan Collins is definitely the player to look out for Wolves, and I think he will be a key part of why they finish potentially in the European spot. So yeah, that was all the teams. To round up again, I'll list all the players. So Bournemouth, we went with Dominic Solanke. Arsenal, we went with William Saliba. Aston Villa went with Boubacar Kamara. Brentford, we went with Aaron Hickey. Brighton, we went with Moises Caicedo. Chelsea was Raheem Sterling. Crystal Palace was Sheikh Doucouré. Everton was Anthony Gordon. Fulham was Harry Wilson. Leeds was Luis Sinisterra. Leicester was Dewsbury Hall. I don't know his first name. Liverpool was Fabio Carvalho. City was Julian Alvarez. United was Lisandro Martinez. Newcastle was Bruno G. Forest was Taiwo Awoniyi. Southampton was Romeo Lavia. Spurs was Clement Langley. West Ham was Gianluca Scamacca. And Wolves was Nathan Collins. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about some of these players, and are these some of the players that you are also looking forward to watching? And in the comments, also make sure you name if you have different names, different ideas of players that you're looking for. Leave that. So yeah, it's pretty much it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe as well. In terms of content to look out for, I think I'm gonna film a league standings prediction on where I think clubs will finish because the season starts in 2 days. And tomorrow, be on the lookout. I do have an episode with MCFC Dabs from our good friends at Never a Foul, where we talk all things City, including Cucurella not going to City as people thought. He's going to Chelsea. That deal is pretty much almost finalized. Romano might have jumped the gun, but yeah, I'm sure he and I could bond over our hatred of Chelsea right now because they're also going after my targets. So yeah, like I said, people, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and peace.